Setting the scene. Buck, if you don't get it now, you'll never get 100. You don't want to screw this up. Thanks a bunch, Matt Prior. I'm standing out in the middle of the country ground in Durham on 10th of August 2013, 4 runs away from 100. I've made 60 of them in first-class cricket and half of those in England. It's not like I don't know how to pass 3 right now. I haven't the faintest idea how to get those 4 runs. The pressure of green swans blowing that much and the silly situation, the hubbub of Ashes crowd, the fact I've got the Australian crest on my helmet instead of the logo of Middlesex, Victoria, or others. It's all added up to one panicking left-hander, and Prior, the English wicket-keeper, getting in my ear, knows it. To think that 20 minutes before, I'd consciously thought I was going to get there in the space of 2 balls. I'd hit a 4, a full toss outside of stump that I got enough on to beat the short cover to his right and the extra cover to his left. That got me to 96 and the next ball was short and wide. I got so excited. I thought, this is a ball. I just need to hit this in the middle, pick a gap and it's 4. But I've always found it a bit difficult to hit a square, cut or forcing shot. I tend to try to hit it with my top hand rather than letting my bottom hand come through. You almost have to slice it a little bit, but I hit it with my top hand and tend to jam it straight down. That's exactly what happened. I bounced it into the ground. It trickled out to backward point, and I was standing there with my bat between my feet thinking, I won't get a much better chance than that. I was right. Swan didn't bowl another bad ball to me. I had 4 lucky escapes in the next 90 balls. I got beaten outside off stump, and I tried to manufacture shots from 2 balls. I got a leading edge to one that leveled up to mid on and landed on one bounce to Stuart Broad. I looked up at the big screen and saw the reply and then the reaction of my Australian teammate on the balcony. Captain Michael Clark was front and center with his head in his hand. He wanted this as much as I did. Then, stupidly, I tried to do it again and it landed on one bounce to mid-wicket. Shane Watson got out, caught down the leg side of Broad. We'd lost a bit of momentum and I was guilty of putting pressure on Shane in that period. Neither of us could get down the other end. I was bad batting and really good bowling, particularly from Swan. Not for the first or the last time. He found another great gear to tie me down completely. As ever in international cricket, the combination of silly mid-off, Ian Bell, and wicket-keeper took every opportunity to remind me of the hole I was digging for myself. period, and I had a good friendship from playing together for the Sydney Thunder, but he wasn't shy in talking it up. These were just about the last words I wanted to hear, and my thing of panic was mounting. Next one brewed me a bowl that I thought was short and wide, and I opened up to cut. But Swan's deception had the ball skidding through low with the arm. So I played over the top and it missed the off stump by a couple of inches. Back I went into head bold posture as everyone on the field, thousands at the ground, and many more thought television could see how much I was struggling. The longer I spent marooned on 96, the further away the 100 seemed to get. In some ways, this episode was a little like my whole career. As an undersized kid, I'd fought my way into junior club and state ranks before I had the power to muscle the ball as others did. And I'm focused very much on battling as problem solving. That method worked for me and took me to the fringes of the Australian side in 27, then out onto a WACA ground as a test debutant in January the following year, but from a position where I was so close to a career with the national side, it all slid away to the point that in 2012 I had mentally prepared to quit the game in Australia and play in South Africa or New Zealand in between country seasons in England. Somehow I had found my way back into Test cricket and I fought my way to 96 today, but those last four runs now felt about reachable as the place in the Australian team had once been. I was consumed by doubts. Oddly enough, doubts and insecurities have actually been quite a powerful force driving me as a cricketer. Some players are able to back themselves in, but my own doubt about my ability to pull off certain shots led me to a very pragmatic game where I worked out the most reliable ways of surviving and scoring without taking undue risk. You often hear about the use of positive thoughts to generate good results, but I'm a good believer in finding a way to channel negative thoughts. At one point, the Farmer Cricket Australia exclusive Marianne Rooks sat us down and say, for every negative thought, you've got to tell yourself to have 5 positive thoughts. I can't say that ever worked for me. You spend so much of your time questioning yourself and competing against others that you need to find a way to use those doubts. To block them out successfully means kidding yourself. And how long can that last? Instead, I found it best to know and own those doubts and use them to sculpt a technique within my own imitations by succeeding where others have not, particularly as an Australian batsman in England. There is perhaps something for others to learn from that. In an age where We constantly hear so much battering above talk, which can lead either to repeat scoring or repeat collapsing. Back in Dakar, I've been left with a desperate kind of multiple choice question. After a moment's contemplation, I decide that I've simply become a wicket in the making for Swan, unless I can attack him in a way he doesn't expect. It's a case of taking things on or getting out. The opinion in my head are to try to hit him back over his head or play the sweep. Neither shot a favorite of mine. When it came to sweeping, I'd habitually avoided the shot because I felt the chances of EIBW were too high. But if I try to take him over the top, I'm sure that I'm likely going to deliver a scare to one of Swan's catches, just as Steve Smith had done when he made it to the fringes of 100 on the previous test at Old Trafford. Later, I found out that at about this time, John invariably turned to his fellow selector, Rod Marsh, with the words, "I know what you do. I'm unison." They laugh and exclaim, "Slug." Initially, I decide the sweep we have to do, even if I have to fetch it from outside of swamp. Funnily enough, the moment's fatalism is rewarded when Swan tosses one up on a perfect length and line for me to swat to the leg side. Looking back at the footage, it appears almost as if I was expecting it. A happy coincidence, and the ball pinged sweetly off the bat, over the square leg umpire's head and into the unmanned expanses beyond him. There is a split second, just as I strike it, when I'm the first person on the ground to know I have 100. I yell yes as it to run, but I know I've got 4, and it takes a moment for everyone to recover from their shock that I'd finally managed to hit one of the square. As I jog down the other end, a sense of exhaustion overtakes me. I can't believe it happened. A few people told me later that they enjoyed how restrained my celebration was, but it was really a case of being too overwhelmed and overcome to do anything else. Brad Hayden comes down the wicket, put his arm around me, and said, "Mate, enjoy this. You deserve it. You try singles in the next few balls and find myself at the non-streaked end for the following over." It is then that it all hit me. The enormousness of that moment. So many hours of so many days, over so many years working up to this innings, and so much of that time playing the game without any real expectation I'd get a chance to do what I have what I have just done. Alone in those thoughts, under the helmet and looking down at the ground, these are tears in my eyes. We go off for bed like a few hours later. I woke up to I woke up the stairs to the Australian team's collection of smiles and pats on the back, and I sit down in something of daze. That's when Darren Lemons comes up to me and says, "Mike, if you can enjoy this now, you are allowed to smile," which gets me grinning. He asked me to say something about it to the guys, but I can't manage much. My mom Rose and dad John have been at the ground watching, and while their team invites them into the dressing room, I head off the media manager Matt Thenin to speak to the press. While I'm away, David Warner ushers mom and dad into the room, sits them down, and offers a drink in a warm gesture they haven't forgotten. A lot of the media conference is a blur to me, but I've read back what I had to say, and this passage sums up how I was feeling after the Fox Sports reporter Daniel Garb asked whether it meant any more having waited so long. After all this time, you just don't think that this opportunity is going to come up. I wanted to believe I was good enough, but never knew to get 100. That's something that no one can take away from me. And I can tell my grandchildren about it now, if I have any. The last bit gets a big laugh. The journalism seems to know a little about me. On the way back from the chat to the media, a Durham security guard escorted me to the change room and said, "Mike, that was amazing. I've done a few games here and there, and I've never ever seen a proud opposition player like I saw today. That's still one of the nicest moments I have of the day, because it says something about how much of a role England had played in my story." Andrew Strath, the former England captain, helped too by saying on Sky that you wouldn't see a better first test hundreds. I mean to have dinner with an old friend, Frank Biederman, who picked me up from the airport on my very first time to the UK to play. But my only thought is to share the moment with my parents, and we have dinner at the team hotel to soak up the day's event. It isn't a case of big conversation or anything like that. Just a nice chance for my two biggest inspirations and I to sit back and enjoy the fact I'd finally done it. They'd been there since the beginning and been thought just as much as I had along the way, right down to agonizing over these 90 balls stuck on 96. We got there in the end. Chapter 2, Beginnings, Sydney, Perth, and the place in between. In the early hours of 30th August 1977, the final zeros of the fifth Ashes Test flickered into Australian living room. It came from the Oval in London via the television coverage provided by Kerry Packers, Channel 9, and the broadcaster was significant. A rain ruined much at the end of a dunk tour for Greg Chappell's team had been overshadowed by the looming black wave of World Series cricket. Orchestrated by Pocket so he could broadcast cricket in the Australian summer and take for himself all the associated commercial benefits. Australian cricket was at the moment of great change and all had been revealed in the midst of that Ashes campaign, leaving into two groups of WSC signatories and the rest. The touring party was divided off the field and miserable on it. Another event marked the morning of 30th August in Sydney. The birth of Christopher John Lee Rogers, second son of John and Ross. If not quite born at the battering case, Chris certainly arrived in its vicinity. John's life had been lived in and around cricket circle. Done. Page 8. Done.